So this is the last like formal thing on the program for this weekend, and that is on purpose. This is a student panel. This is a staple of every single admitted student event at every law school in the country. There is some form of, panel like this, and there's a reason. It's because you guys have all these questions that you think that you can't ask sort of grown-ups, and you think that they'll tell you the truth, and we won't. So that's why we have this. I also have it at the end because I think it's good for you to have sort of everything we've done, and like, this is sort of like drinking from a fire hose these last like 24 hours, right? I mean, you've gotten a lot of information, and now maybe you have better questions to ask, of students that are sort of in the seats that you think you might want to be in next year. So that's why I also put it at the end. And some schools you might see the me-type person like leave the room, to give this like air of, no, they're going to keep it real. They're going to tell you like how it is. These guys are going to do that anyway, whether I'm here or not, and someone needs to walk around with the microphone. So I'm going to stick around, but I want you to know, like, there really aren't any rules for this session as far as like, there's no really topics that that are off limits or whatever. I want you to really feel like you can ask these guys anything, and they will tell you, the truth. And I'll chime in a little bit, or I'll sort of like maybe ask questions and stuff. But I really want this to sort of go, this way today. So we've got 1 Ls, 2 Ls, and 3 Ls. So all three, classes represented. We've got bonus special guest over here on the end, special guest star Cam Brunfield. Last minute uncredited appearance in the movie. Like his IMDb page wouldn't say; it would just say uncredited for this. Yeah. Former student body president, or student bar association president. Sorry. And so I'm going to have them introduce themselves, and your assignment is going to be, starting with you, Garrett. Name where you went to undergrad, where you're from, so your hometown, and the most memorable thing from your first year of law school. So that's should be fresh in your minds. Oldies, it might take a while, so think about it, because I know it was a long time ago. Go ahead, Gary.
Okay, I'm Garrett Couts. I'm from Pampa, Texas, and I went here at Texas Tech for my undergrad, and then obviously continued on to Tech Law. Let's see, my favorite memory from 1L year, fresh wounds. I had a 10-hour final last semester. That was a lot of fun. It sounds horrific, and it was for the 10 hours. And then like the next day was like recovery. But then once it was all over, it was kind of fun. I wouldn't sign up to do it again, but it was a lot of fun. So that was probably my favorite memory so far.
Taking a final, that's interesting. Didn't expect that one. Rasha?
My name is Rasha Buziada. I am from Chicago, Illinois. Did undergrad at Texas State University. Most memorable moment is probably 1L mock trial. Lots of law schools don't let you do that as a 1L, and we got the opportunity to do that. And I remember it was like my moment to shine, and I had to make an objection, and I felt like I was in Law and Order, and I was like, oh my God, what if I get overruled? But it got sustained, and I felt really cool. So I was like, yeah, I just did that. So it's probably my most memorable moment.
My name is Nirav Patel. I'm a second-year student. I did my undergraduate here at Texas Tech. I'm from Snyder, Texas. Most of you probably don't know where that is, and that's okay. Most memorable thing from 1L year is probably ending 1L year with the last final exam in the spring semester. I think 1L year is great, but it's a nice relief to be done. So
that feeling. There's not a lot like it. I mean, those of you that have had jobs, walking out of the office at 5 o'clock on a Friday is kind of like that, but it's times a million, where you just sort of I don't have anything to do today.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bianca Rodriguez, and I'm from McAllen, Texas, and I went to the University of Texas at Austin for undergrad. My favorite memory is also like Rasha's. It would be 1L mock trial. I really enjoyed it. I learned that that's something I want to continue into law school, and it made me become very involved in the advocacy program here. And it was a really, really worthwhile experience. It took up a lot of time. It took up a ton of time because there's so many things that you're learning to do for the first time, like what's a direct examination, what's a cross-examination, how to formulate these questions a certain way. But it's a great experience, and that's probably my most memorable experience my 1L year.
I'm Sarah Waller. I am from Andrews, Texas, which is about 2 hours south of here in the Permian Basin. I went to University of Texas of the Permian Basin. My most memorable moment is probably, it's in the summer after 1L year. It's when I received the email that I had made law review. Because as you'll learn, the write-on packet is a beast. And if you do it and you get on a journal, it's an amazing feeling. And it makes you feel rewarded for all of the work that you did. So that was my most memorable.
My name's Cameron Brumfield. I went to undergrad here at Tech. I'm from Breckenridge, Texas, another one of those small towns that nobody's probably heard of.
That's from Will Eccles' friend,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, Will was. One of my classmates, we actually went to high school together, and we found out like the day orientation started, he was standing right behind me. So that was pretty cool.
Small world.
Yeah.
Still, okay. My most memorable moment would be when Professor Shannon was trying to demonstrate a case in contracts, and he jumped up on the lecture desk.
And those aren't low.
No,
In the
no,
classrooms,
yeah,
they're up here.
and Shannon's not short, so he was like way up there. And he was demonstrating a case. So it was pretty fun. Everyone got a good crack out of it. Or either that or the what is chicken case.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that was a good case too. So,
Do you have Casto?
no, I had Shannon.
Oh,
So he actually
okay.
brought rubber chickens.
Did we solve the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's-
Is it a secret or?
No,
can you
it's
tell?
anything that's not meant for roasting or stewing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you
So,
go. That's a knowledge.
if you're wondering,
Chicken.
yeah, that's what chicken is.
How many of you guys? I just thought I'd ask this. How many of you guys came to Accepted Students Weekend yourselves?
Me.
Cool. I like you guys. The other ones, you're on my list.
You didn't accept me yet.
See, that's that advocacy right there. Like you were quick. You were right on the ball with that. I like that. But all right. So questions. Who?
I'm pretty sure you guys had more options. Like, what made you choose Texas Tech?
Sure. Well, honestly, I got my Texas Tech was my last acceptance, so I was just like telling schools to hold off on my deposit deadlines because I was like, I need one. I'm waiting on one more school. But I want to be a courtroom lawyer, so I want to be an advocate, and Texas Tech has one of the top advocacy programs in Texas and the nation. And I did get a pretty good scholarship, so I was like, oh, okay, that's where I'm going. So I came to Tech. I mean, Lubbock is not the greatest place ever, but once you get here, you'll love it. You'll have a community of friends and family. So I mean, the area won't matter as much, and it's a pretty awesome school.
Yeah, mine kind of follows hers in that regard. I mean, I went to Tech for undergrad, so I was already kind of, I guess, brainwashed into the scarlet and black situation. So I already kind of had a bias towards Tech law anyway. But I did get accepted other places, and so it did kind of become a juggling act to see where I was going to go. I ultimately started calling attorneys that I'm friends with and started asking them, this is what I want to do, and this is where I want to be. What's the best school for me to shoot for? And every single answer was Tech. And the main reasons they told me that were because the cost is just fantastic. The community of alumni is fantastic. And I've already seen that just having one semester under my belt. Opportunities that the alumni have come back to this school and offered summer clerkships or summer positions or full-time positions during the school year, whatever they're offering to the current students because they're giving back to this law school. And so both of those are really big for me. And I think exactly what she said, it really depends on what you want to do when you're done. And I know that's hard, especially right now when you're just now getting started. But the sooner you figure that out, the easier it is for you to pick what path you want to take. And I thought Tech had the widest range of options for me because I didn't really know what I wanted to do yet. And so it's provided me already kind of some lessons learned of I do want to do this kind of law. I definitely don't want to do that kind of law. And all of the choices I've made so far, I've had opportunities here to pursue those. So that's why I chose here.
I think one thing I'll add to what Garrett said, like himself, I also did my undergrad here, so I was very familiar with the law school. But one thing that really set Tech apart for me was the fact that, a lot of law schools say when you come here, we'll teach you how to think like a lawyer. And at Tech, that's true, but what's also true here is that not only do you learn how to think like a lawyer, but you also learn how to write like a lawyer, and you also learn how to talk like a lawyer. And I don't think writing and speaking skills are emphasized enough at other law schools, and here Tech does a really good job through the legal practice program to teach you the fundamentals of being a lawyer, legal writing and legal research, and then also being able to present in front of 50 people and not being scared through the oral advocacy program. So I think the combination of what Tech Law provides in terms of the skills you learn every day, lawyering skills is really what sets Tech apart from other law schools.
And to add on to that, I completely agree with his plug for our legal writing program. I don't know what it's ranked or anything like that. I've heard very good things about it. That's something to probably ask Dean Bettis. But on a personal story, this past summer I worked at Federal District Court in McAllen for Judge Alvarez, and I had turned in a memo. It was like my big project for that time that I was there, and she had asked me, what's your previous writing experience? You write very well. And I just said, just legal practice. And I could tell by her reaction, she's like, that's it? You write very well. This is really well researched, well thought out, and this is really great work. And it made me feel good. So I wanted to share that with you because I agree with Nirav that the legal writing program here is fantastic. To answer the question, though, why I chose Tech, it was the best value for me. Financially, I think it's the best value that there is. I can't remember where I read it, what magazine. It might have been, I'm not going to say because I'm probably going to be wrong, but it got an A in value. And they took in different factors like employment after law school, cost of tuition, stuff like that. And it got an A or an A minus. I'm like, wow, that's awesome. So that's why I chose Tech, for its value.
Now, Bianca, you came from pretty far. I know I'm from down there too. It's what McAllen.
It's 10 hours
10-hour
away.
drive. Mm-hmm. And you were living in Austin, which apparently, according to people that live in Austin, is the best place to live on the planet because no one ever wants to live there.
Austin's getting kind of snobby a little bit, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how your decision went in that and to go so far away from home and where you were living and that kind of stuff? Was that something that you thought about, or was it?
It's something I thought about a little bit, but it didn't impact my decision that much. I would be willing to move even to a different state to go to law school if it was the right fit for me and if it was a financially sound decision. But I didn't have to. I was able to stay in Texas and it still be a good fit for me and financially good for me. But it didn't impact my decision too much, to be honest.
Did you guys?
It was basically cost and location because my family is about 2 hours away. So that was important to me to be close because in your 1L year, you're going to need that support. If it's a phone call, if it's an email, anything, you're going to want to keep in touch with your parents at least a little bit. Call them every once in a while, let them know you're alive and you're doing well. You're surviving. So that was important to me.
For me, it was the faculty and the staff, and that's not an exaggeration. I was working at the Toyota dealership, and one day somebody had showed up late, and they were the person who would normally drive the shuttle van, and so I was appointed to drive the shuttle van, and Donna was actually one of the ones that was driving, or that I was giving a ride to, and she said, she was going to law school, and I was like, oh, I want to apply there, and she set me up with a tour. I got to sit on a classroom. I met professors. And then about 4 or 5 of the other professors had come in with various cars, and every time I would get a card, and they'd say, come talk to me. And that's held true throughout law school, how open their doors are. I've actually sat down with professors I've never taken before to go over subjects because my professor was unavailable at the time. So for me, that was a huge deal.
So, a pre-law job, don't work at a law firm, work at a Toyota dealership.
Don't sell cars.
Don't sell them, but be the courtesy driver guy.
I recognized 2 of you from the advanced finals last night. I personally am very interested in doing advocacy, maybe all 3 of the different competitions. But what would you say or I guess what advice would you give someone who wants to compete at the level, compete at that level, and what can they do to, throughout 1L year, to be able to be as successful as you were last night?
I think the first thing I'll add is what you saw last night is not what's going to be expected of you. I think they try to emphasize that to you guys. How many of you guys attended last night? Wow, a lot of you. Great. So, yeah, like what you saw last night was not what you're going to run into your first year of moot court. These guys are getting ready to do moot court next week. I don't think they'll have as tough of a time. Their issues are a little bit easier. And the key thing is to don't give up. So when I was in their shoes last year, I actually did not compete in the 1L moot court competition just because I had some other time conflicts with the appellate brief. But the key thing is to, if it's something you're interested in, like keep doing it even if you don't have success initially, right? So like you may do the 1L moot court competition next year, and you may not do as well as you think that you should have done or as well as you would have hoped. But don't let that discourage you from continuing to do it your second year, because once you get into your second year, you have the opportunity to be on a national team after you try out for your first year. And if you're on a national team, you're going to be coached by some amazing attorneys. So I was on 2 national teams this year for moot court, and I was trained by some of the best advocates that the school has produced in the last 25 years. So it's a really amazing experience what they can teach you, and you will learn a ton once you start interacting with the coaches. We also have the Board of Barristers, so your first year you will interact a ton with the Board of Barristers, which is comprised of third-year students, and they do a really nice job of explaining to you what is expected of you in the round and how you can manage expectations and manage your performance while also handling other responsibilities that you have as a first-year student. But yeah, the key thing is to keep practicing. I mean, I've gone through like 50 practice rounds before yesterday's round, not on that particular topic, but it just, I mean, you got to keep doing it over and over. It's like anything else, you just keep practicing, so.
Question down there. Catch. No, I'm just kidding. That's all I need to hit you.
I was going to clarify. So I think you had mentioned that you recognize 2 people. I think there's only one of us. Is that? Yeah, there's only one of us. No, that's fine. But yeah, the other people that were in that round are excellent advocates, and they too have competed in moot court numerous times, whether intra-school or inter-school in our national competition. So it does take a lot of practice. So.
And you didn't like you were saying, the balance of the work, your stuff, you didn't have to compete in this if you didn't want to. You can be on Bob and not be on a national team. You can be on a national team and not be in the Board of Barristers.
Absolutely.
It's a time management thing. It's just, but I think your point is well taken, is there's no substitute for putting in the work, right? And there's a reason if you look at, all the teams that win the most moot court and mock trial competitions, you're not going to see Harvard, you're not going to see Stanford, you're not going to see Chicago or NYU because they don't win. The schools that win are us, South Texas, Stetson, where the students hustle. They work hard and they know it's important and that's what they want to do. A lot of the other schools, like the students are kind of like, they got a lot of stuff going on. They'll work on it for a little while. And every once in a while they'll win something. But the ones that win in like multiple competitions at all levels, it's the schools that focus more on skills like us, like I said, South Texas, Stetson, between California, Hastings. Those are the schools that really produce folks that know how to be a lawyer. And that's you probably have heard that difference between some schools are more theory based and some are more practical based. That's sort of an example of that.
One thing I'll add to what Dean Perez said is if you ask Professor Sherwin, who's in charge of our advocacy programs, he'll tell you, the reason we win championships is not because we're better than the other students that are competing from other schools. It's because we simply outwork them. We put in, more hours than they do. We do more practice rounds than they do, and that's why we win. So.
I guess something just to add to what he's saying is the competition's 1L year. I guess 1L year, you're kind of just trying to find your way and find time to eat, shower, work out. I don't know. It's a huge transition. And these competitions are time consuming. It's not like you look at it once and you got it. They do take a lot of time, and a lot of people shy away from doing it because it takes a lot of time. But it's honestly probably the funnest thing I have done as a 1L thus far. Not only has it helped me become a better speaker and an advocate. But it's kind of like my time away from my books, from classroom, anything like that. It's like my fun acting. Like if you're an athlete as an undergrad, this is basically like our athletic sport here on campus. It is so much fun. So do it. Your 1L year, do it. And it's a very subjective competition. Like, if you have one judge, you may win. If you have another judge, you may not win. So don't take that away and be like, oh, I'm horrible or I'm like the greatest, because it can always differ. So just do it, stick to it, and I promise you, you'll get better. There's no way that you won't. You'll get better as time goes on.
Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to know if you could speak a little bit about some of your clinical experiences and/or your summers away from Texas Tech, and how that kind of changed your perspective coming back that next year.
Sarah, either one of you in clinic?
So I didn't do any of the clinics, but I've done quite a few internships. In fact, the first one I did was the day my contract's final was over. The very next day, I went to court with my boss and helped him do some stuff. But I wrote some petitions. I did a lot of discovery. I did a lot of work. And I think as it applies to coming back, it gives you a lot of perspective when you're taking the rest of your classes that this is why it's important. So it really helps you apply it. Both of my internships that I had specifically were over the summer, but they were here, so I didn't really stay away from tech too much. I even took classes last year. I took 9 hours in the summer so I could lighten up my spring, which has been really nice. But I think for some people, they think, oh, well, I want to take a break from law. That's perfectly fine if you feel like you want to do that. But I would say go for an internship because it really puts things in perspective. And it also, when you get to meet your clients and find out your why, why you're doing what you're doing, that really helps your motivation too. So.
I did normal internships during the summer, but I also participated in the regional externship program that Tech offers, and it is one of the probably the best thing I've done throughout law school. I was with Chief Justice Livingston at the Second Court of Appeals in Fort Worth all last semester, so I did not have to take classes. I didn't have finals. I had basically a 2-month Christmas break. It was wonderful, and it was an amazing learning experience. I basically did the work of a staff attorney for Chief Justice Livingston. I assisted in drafting opinions. I did research. I had the opportunity to meet with alumni in the area. I got to go to events that attorneys go to. It was an amazing experience. If you do come to Tech, which I hope you all do, and you would like that type of experience, you should definitely consider applying for the regional externship program your second year, because it is invaluable what you get out of it.
And talk about working for a judge, because I think if a lot of people say, oh, you should clerk for a judge, and no one really ever explains why, or what you do and stuff. And so it's not just writing. Like Bianca, you talked about it when you work for your judge, you write briefs, but you also see what other attorneys submit to the court, right? And people have told me that that's more eye-opening than anything else. So could you talk about that a little bit?
Things that you receive brief-wise, sometimes it looked to me like those people didn't even go to law school, because I had never seen so many grammatical errors. Sentence structure was wrong. I also got to see oral arguments when they would come in on Tuesdays, and that was also a learning experience to see what not to do in front of a panel of judges. Be prepared. It's important. Clerking for a judge is very important. But if you're a person that requires a lot of interaction with people, I would suggest doing it, but maybe not considering it as a career. Because I actually was considering it as a career until I did the externship. And then I realized I got a little lonely. So it was best for me to maybe not have that kind of job where you're researching and writing. I did learn a lot. I learned a lot about criminal law that we never covered in criminal law. So it really is important. If you want to do that, I would suggest trying to maybe clerk for a judge after your 1L year, if you can get one. And any kind of judge is good. Mine was an appellate judge, so we only did appeals, but a district judge is great. I had a friend who did worked for Judge Jordan in Dallas, and he was wonderful. She got to do all kinds of things. So,
Bianca, you were with a federal judge.
I was in McAllen this past summer. That was for 6 weeks. That was a really great experience for a lot of the same reasons. You get to see, you learn by kind of seeing what not to do sometimes, or how not to write, or what not to turn in. But to answer the question, I'm also going to be doing a regional externship next year, and it's going to be in Dallas, and it is with another judge. It's a U.S. magistrate judge, Judge Ramirez, in Dallas. So I'm looking forward to that, because kind of like the decision she already made, I haven't made my decision whether or not I would like to be a judicial clerk after law school. So I'm going to kind of feel this externship out, but I would also recommend doing a clinic or an externship because you gain so much practical, valuable experience. The reason I chose to do an externship over a clinic is because I want to live in the DFW area. I've never lived there before. And I would like to just have maybe the option of going there after law school, establishing some connections there, and that's what the regional externship provides. So if you're looking to move into Dallas, Austin, Houston, and then there's one placement in San Antonio, I would suggest looking into the regional externship because you get full-time experience, but you get class credit for it, and that's something that, really drew me into it. So I'm going to do it. I'll be in Dallas at this time next year. So I just have to get through these next few weeks, one more semester, and I'm basically done with law school. So I'm really happy about that. So there's just so many reasons for me that made the regional externship appealing.
And I should probably tell you, I mean, 'cause did anybody talk to the regional externship table yesterday at the thing? Okay, so I should really talk about it because this is like a really special thing. Because there's really no other law school in the country that has something like it. And so I'll take a little bit of the spotlight just for this for a little bit. But every law school has externships, which is basically an internship for credit, right? Every law school has them, but ours is different for two reasons. One, usually it's, and in any of the other law schools, it's in the city that the law school is located. So it's not somewhere else, and so you can't go somewhere else. You got to be there. And it's usually only like 3 credits or something. So you still have to take all your other classes. And so the credit is based on the number of hours you work. So you're really not there a lot. And so they can't really give you sort of anything too complicated or too significant because you're not there long enough. Ours are, like you heard, they're in Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, Houston, and San Antonio. Well, the one in San Antonio is with the Spurs, which is a very highly sought after with the general counsel office, as you can imagine. And the types of placements are, legal aid, nonprofits like Kids in Need of Defense in Houston, sort of Children's Advocacy Clinic, federal courts like the Fifth Circuit in Houston. This session, there's actually some 2Ls that are going in Austin. It's usually you have to be a third year for a semester, but because it's a session year, we've got a whole bunch of placements in the legislature with Chief of Staff, with the Senate, with the Legislative Council, all the different agencies and stuff. And so what happens is the students go for an entire semester. You get 12 credits, so you get a full semester's worth of credit, and you're working 35 hours a week. And so it's basically a full-time job, and so they can give you much more significant projects because you're there every day, 7 hours a day, doing that kind of stuff. And no other law school in the country has that. And one of the reasons why we do it is because we know where we are. We know we're in Lubbock, and we know most of you do not want to live in Lubbock for the rest of your lives, right? And so we do things to help connect you to the places where you want to be, and this is one of those things. And it's really great because I think it's like the best of both worlds. Like you can get the personal attention, you come here and the sort of little easier pace of life. You don't have to worry about traffic and all that kind of stuff, but you can still get the connections of working and living in the city you want to be. And so it's a really great kind of program that we have. Like I said, it's not at any other law school, and it's I probably could have done a whole hour of just people that have done those, but the experience is amazing. I mean, you heard Sarah's. We had like Mike Hansen last year was at the Tarrant County DA's office. He tried by himself like something like 100 trials, by himself. He had his third-year bar card, and they just let him do that. Even in a clinic, you're not going to get that level of experience. And then can you think that that might be beneficial when you're applying for jobs and you can say like, oh no, I've done that job. Like I did that job for 3 months, so please hire me, right? So it's proving really popular. We've got about 50, 55 placements, so it's not something that like only a select few people get to do. It is competitive, you do have to apply, but like 50 is about a quarter of the class. So it's not like it's a really small number. You apply, they do try to match it. And the other thing is these placements are not open to anybody else. So it's not like if somebody just was living in Tarrant County, or like was going to another law school and wanted to drive up to Tarrant County, they could take that position. It's only open to our students in these roles because the people have agreed to supervise them and make sure you're not just getting coffee and actually mentor you. There's also the mentoring aspect, which I think you touched on, right, Sarah, that you were matched up with people when you went to young lawyer events and all that kind of stuff, which is amazing and that kind of stuff. So it's really special. So for those of you that might be still a little concerned about missing out on those sort of, or quote unquote, big city opportunities, there are ways to get those. So I don't remember where we stopped. But Tim, did you raise your hand? Or did you want to?
Yeah, one thing I was going to add to the original question was when the first time you get out, after your first year of law school and you start working, is when you really realize the importance of going to a school like Tech, because you'll see that you have the confidence and the skills necessary to get the work done. So whether you're working for a federal judge or whether you're working for a firm, you'll be able to do the assignments that they give you because of the skills that you've learned in your legal practice program, right? And I think you don't really realize the value of the tech education that you get here until you go out into the workforce, after your first year of law school. And that's when you really see, I can do this. And hopefully, you'll be working with students from other schools, and you'll realize, like I did this summer, that they don't really know what they're doing because they didn't receive the education that you get here at Tech Law. I can't speak enough about the legal practice program here, and how much that will prepare you when you go out into the workforce. So.
And I've heard, I think every year we've done this, somebody has said almost exactly that. I've heard several different stories of people being at firms or with judges, and there being situations where they were the only ones that knew certain stuff, and by the end of the summer, one guy worked for a judge. By the end of the summer, the judge was just giving him the assignments, and then he was giving out the assignments to the rest of the clerks. And he was clerking with people from big name schools from all over the country. And then these two guys, they were both at a firm, and the firm had a little mini mock trial for their associates, kind of Thunderdome, throw them all in and make them fight. And so they had it, and they wiped the floor with everybody. And again, these were people from big name schools, and everybody was impressed because why? Because they had done 1L mock trial. So they knew how to object, and they knew how to do some things that, the other people were smart and they'll figure it out, but our students knew how to do that already. And all the attorneys were like, how do you know how to do that? And it's because we taught them how to do it, right? And so they got noticed because of that. And so for the rest of the summer, they got a lot more attention that they wouldn't have gotten if they didn't know how to do those kinds of things. So that's a good comment.
And I want to say from the 1L perspective, as far as getting clerkships for your first summer, that's kind of where we are at this point. So when you get to Christmas break, that's kind of like the trigger at the start line when everybody kind of takes off to start figuring out what they're doing in the summer, which kind of seems extreme because you're I just finished this first semester of law school. Can I please just breathe for a second?
No,
But, you have to find your positions for the summer. And I'll roll back to what I said of coming here. The alumni connections, which obviously you've heard this whole time, the connections that this school has across the state, the country, everywhere. Whatever you want to do and wherever you want to do it, there is a Tech Law alumni there that you can get in contact with. And so that's a fantastic aspect because when we started hunting over Christmas break for where we wanted to be and what we wanted to do this summer, it was very easy. All we had to do was hunt down a Tech alumni, either through the school here with the career services or through the Tech Announce that they launch every single day has
10 and 2.
Yeah, 10 and 2. You'll get 2 a day. And they'll just list summer positions. And some of them may not interest you at all. I saw one yesterday that I was like, I will pray for whoever takes this. No, thank you. But there are other ones you'll see that you're like, I really want to do this. And so there are opportunities everywhere. And just because you know an alumni. I was able to skip some of the craziness just because I worked for a Tech Law alum all throughout undergrad and at her firm here. And then she's now a judge, and she knew I would be looking for clerkships. And she called a managing partner at a firm and said, you want this kid, don't waste your time, just hire him. So I didn't do anything. So that was fantastic. And so just the alumni connections here are just fantastic, and you can't overestimate them.
All right, this is kind of a follow-up question that I asked the alumni yesterday. And, in relying on your personal experience or things that you've observed with other students during their 1L year, how would you say, dealing with the stress that comes with law school, the 1L year, probably, balancing schoolwork and some semblance of a social life, which I know, talking with people, everyone has those concerns?
There is no stress. That's question.
Well, I was really busy as an undergrad. I was a student athlete, took full load, worked. So I was like, okay, this is not going to be too hard, right? Like, how much harder could it possibly be? Well, I obviously didn't know what I was getting into. I came in, at the first couple of weeks, you probably won't sleep that much because you don't have a routine yet. You don't know what's expected of you. The biggest thing 1L year is probably your classes. Most intimidating, for sure. I don't know if you guys know the Socrates method yet, but you will get to know that very, very well. You will get called on, you will stand up, and you will be badgered the entire class. So that's probably the most stressful thing. The best thing you can do, honestly, get a planner, set out a schedule. From this time, this is what I'm going to do. From this time, this is what I'm going to do. My thing has been I schedule a workout 5 days a week, and that's my getaway. Okay, I'm going to do it. And that's my stress reliever. You have to find a stress reliever. You have to do it. Take a Saturday, go do something. If you have a significant other, do not deprive them. Have fun with them, go out, do stuff. You want to call them, you want to maintain contact because your relationships, they do become a little severed. You will change. When I went home for Christmas break, my friends were like, what happened to you? You're so different. So, you are going to change. Just keep in contact with your family. Just keep positive vibes and you'll be fine. It'll be stressful, but you'll get through it.
I absolutely agree. I've had a million people ask me this question, as I'm sure everybody has. So my summary of tips that I tell people, the planner, I do the color-coded calendar. Siri is a magician, and I love her very much. She keeps my life straight. So color code your calendar and just plan out. I have 5 days a week that I work out. I go to church every single Sunday. That 2 hours is just blocked off. Sorry, law school. It's not happening. And so you just put it in your calendar that these are the things I absolutely want to keep engaged in, and just put them in your calendar, and they're just hard rules for you. And then you just make law school work around those. And it's absolutely doable. You can still have a little bit of, social life and have your friends and that kind of thing. But she is right that it will change. Your friend group will change a lot because you'll crack a joke about jurisdiction and you think it's really funny. And your other friends are completely lost and confused. And they're talking about TV shows you've never heard of because you don't watch TV anymore. Or at least unless it's Suits or something like that. So I think you can. So just pick out the things that are really important to you that you want to keep doing, workout or a certain sport or something like that, and just make sure that you plan it in, and you can absolutely do that.
One thing I'll say, and I said this last year at Accepted Students Weekend, is you really have to treat 1L year especially like an 8 to 5 job. And I think that's so important because this is really the first day of the rest of your professional life, when you start your 1L year. And if you can treat it as an 8 to 5 job, you'll realize that, you can get most of your work done during that time if you stay focused during that time period, for 5 days a week. I mean, yeah, you're going to have to, do some homework, during the weekend and perhaps after 5, but, most people don't work just 8 to 5. So keep that in mind, especially if you're going to be a lawyer. You're, surely not going to be working just 8 to 5. So it's good practice to get ready for being a lawyer. But yeah, treat it like a job. And I think if you do it that way and take that perspective, I think you'll see that you're more successful.
I agree completely. Treat it like a job, and most jobs for attorneys aren't 8 to 5, so you're probably going to need to put more than 40 hours to get everything done. Be prepared for class, start putting an outline together. But you can do that and still maintain a workout routine and still be able to go out every so often and do the things that you want to do. I have to say, I don't work out 5 times a week. That's insane. I wish I could work out 5 times a week. When they both said that, I'm like, whoa, that's amazing. I try to work out 3 or 4. Usually get in 3. If I get in 4, I'm like, yes, awesome week. But those things matter. You might not realize it if you stop working out or if you stop eating well, start eating junk food. You might not realize it until one day you just feel like, you feel like crap and you don't really know why. And it's because you haven't been working out, you don't really eat well. Don't sacrifice those things because it really will wear you down. And I remember, they probably for you guys still do it, extended 1L orientation. That was like one of their huge topics, like eat well and exercise. But because they know that that's true, like that it's easy to let those things go by the wayside and not care about them. But you really shouldn't let yourself do that.
Yeah, you thought the freshman 15 were bad.
So just
The
try.
1LBs.
Law school 30s.
But also, I wanted to add, you're going to make friends at the law school. You'll have like your study group of friends that you're going to hang out with all the time, and just be there for each other, kind of like, and you will. When times get tough, like these people are going to become some of your best friends, and if you make it a point to exercise, eat well, and kind of just look out for your friends, they'll look out for you as well, and it'll be fine. Like it's you get through 1L year, and it's a really great accomplishment because it's hard. I mean, if it was easy, everybody would do it, right? That's what my dad always tells me. And just keeping that in mind, it'll be fine.
The 3Ls don't remember what the stress was like.
I use a
Just like-
planner. I use Erin Condren planner. Does anybody use those? Because they're fabulous. They have stickers. It's awesome. Okay, I guess I'm a nerd. A planner, yes, but now the exercise thing, I'm not a huge workout freak, but if there are things that you enjoy doing, if you like to go to dinner with a friend, schedule it once a week. We had my 1L year, we had our law school family. We would have family dinners. It was about 6 or 7 of us, and we're all still pretty close now as 3Ls. So just find things that you enjoy doing and do them sporadically within your work. So it just keep the balance. Find the balance that works for you. It's not going to be the same for everybody. Some people might work out all the time. Some people might want to watch a 30-minute television show to unwind. Some people might want mindless TV. Mindless TV is great your 1L year if you have like an hour to just not watch anything that's... I think I watch Jersey Shore sometimes, my 1L year, because you don't have to think. Because you don't want to think.
I want to add something in. Yes, have something for yourself every day. Have something for yourself every day. So my thing was when I had dinner, I would always put on a show for Netflix. My show was How I Met Your Mother, and it was awesome because it's only 20 minutes. And if you watch a second episode, you still don't feel bad because it's 40 minutes, and you need that 20 or 40 minutes every day to yourself. I had my dinner and I watched How I Met Your Mother, and it was my time, and it really helped me transition from school back into my home life and just not worry about that for that 40 minutes and then read for the next day. But have some time for yourself every day. I thought that was helpful for me, at least.
One quick thing to add. Don't forget, we are a top 12 school. This is a huge football school. Sports are huge. Don't seclude yourself and not go to the undergrad and do fun undergrad things. Football games for me were huge. I was like, okay, by Saturday I'm done. I'm going to the football game. Basketball games, we have intramural sports. So everything you did as an undergrad is still accessible to you. Do not come to law school and think, oh, I'm a grown up, I can't go do any of this stuff. No, be a child, go do it, have fun. For me, that was huge. I participated in everything I could. So don't forget that. You also have that to your opening. Do whatever you want.
And the tech family thing was mentioned, and that's the big stress saver. You get really, really close to the people that are especially in your section, but even people outside of your section as well. Just because you're kind of going through this boot camp together, your 1L year. So you kind of get close. I'm sure Dean Perez gets tired of seeing all my Facebook and Instagram photos with my tech law family because we have a photo problem. We need to get that checked out. But we just take a lot of pictures and we do a lot of fun stuff together. And I mean, when you're too busy, like Thanksgiving break, some students don't get to go home because they're too busy getting ready for finals and they live too far away. Luckily, I don't live too far. So basically, the gist of my tech law family went to my family's Thanksgiving. And so just, that kind of stuff plays out. And you really do get a unit of support here that really helps you out. So don't think that you're kind of just doing this thing by yourself because you're going to have a really strong group of friends here with you.
One thing I'll add, Rasha mentioned about going to sporting events. just so everyone knows, you're going to be paying, like you've already paid for that, so utilize it. It's free to get into every basketball game, every football game, every soccer game, any athletic event you have free access to with your student ID. So make sure you take advantage of that. I love going to the basketball games here because I can literally walk from my carrel on the third floor and get to the basketball arena within like 60 seconds. It's right across the street, so utilize it. It's really a stress reliever. So
Coolest thing about that is we get L stickers on our car, so nobody can park in the slot game day,
Yeah.
but they see that L and they're like, oh, go for it. And you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I can park
That's what was
here.
going on yesterday. I don't know if you guys read how they had it blocked off, and there was some dude like not letting people into the parking lot. That's what that was. There was something going on at the arena, but because like I have an L sticker, I was able to come in around and park. And it goes for all like events when there's concerts there and all that kind of stuff. You can kind of be like, no, I'm a law student, I'm good. And you feel like a VIP when the little sort of parking lot seat lets you through to go through there.
Hi, I just had a quick question that I haven't heard anybody talk about so far is organizations. Like I know there's Tech Law Republicans and a whole list of different organizations here. And I was just interested, does anybody participate in those? And if so, what's it like? I mean, I know in undergrad, we had meetings every 2 weeks for some of our organizations. Is this a once a month, once a year? Do you build friendships in it, and what's it like, I guess?
Cam, you wouldn't happen to know anything about student
Yeah,
sports, would
no.
you?
So I was the Student Bar Association president, and Student Bar Association is the managing board for student organizations. And they're all run completely differently. There are about 45 or 46 student organizations, and it seems like there's another 1 or 2 added every semester. There's a lot of them, and that's including the journals and Bob, but they're really as involved as you want them to be. They're completely student run. The professors are essentially hands-off. Some of the professors are more involved than the others, but I'd say 90% of the professors are hands-off, so it's all student involved. And your first year, you can't really be an officer in them. They don't let you until elections come around. About this time, I think they just did elections. But some organizations do meet as often as once or twice a month. Others meet only once a semester, but they're required to meet at least once a semester. So.
Also, actually, after this, at 12 is chili cook-off for all the student organizations, and I cook chili for 3 organizations, so one of them has to be good. You guys go. It's at the Fraser Pavilion, which is like right by the stadium. There's probably like 30 or so organizations there today. Go try the chili meet and greet. You'll get to see all the organizations that we have. Like he said, we have like over 47, and if there's something we don't have, you can always create it, so don't let that ever dissuade you. But yes, go to the Fraser Pavilion at 12, which is like 5 minutes ago, and try the chili.
Well, I would prefer if you went at 12:30 when this ends. 'Cause
Okay,
it's
yes,
on the
that's
ag-
perfect. 12:30,
Yeah.
just kidding, just kidding.
It's on the agenda then. That's why that is on the agenda, because it's a time to go and see all the student orgs and stuff. And
I say go to it. You get to see most of the organizations. It's fun.
Some of them dress up in themes.
Yeah, they have
It's-
costumes.
It's entertaining.
it's also where lunch is. So,
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so you have to go.
self-interest.
Chili.
If you're hungry, go there.
One thing I'll say is, like, I think first-year students sometimes have this tendency, and I did this as well, like, to join basically every organization there is possible. Don't think that you have to do that, right? I mean, like, pick like 1 or 2 organizations that you really think like you can benefit from. So, like, Energy Law was one that I was in, and I think that was a good experience for me because we brought in speakers and things like that. So that was like the one organization that I was involved in. But then like your second and third year, you really start picking and choosing like what you want to be involved in, and you'll discover that you want to be less involved in something else, and that's perfectly okay too. So use like your first year to really, find a couple of organizations that you think you might be involved in. And then as you get, more into law school, like focus on those organizations and become a leader, and then, help bring in the next crop of students for that organization. So, but don't think that you have to get involved in all 47 organizations.
Yeah, because all 47 aren't even active. I would go to the chili cook-off because those are the organizations that are active. I would say it'd be more reasonable to say like 20. There's like 20 active organizations.
Yeah, there's actually a lot that, to be honest, they don't do enough. And if I had it my way, they wouldn't be organizations. Because they don't do anything, and they get student service fee money.
Yeah.
And so as, looking over all that, I was just thinking like, oh, that would be better suited somewhere else. But, of course I wasn't the only person. It's a board of 26 and I was non-voting. So
So if you go to the Chili Cook-Off, you can see what organizations are active. I would say, I think most of them meet once a month because we are law students. It would be, I think it would probably be too much if they met twice a month because there's just not.
I said probably could drop in for free lunches.
Oh, yeah. And they probably meet once a month, I would say. And that would be like 4 times a semester. So that's a lot. I would say 3 or 4 times a semester is the average amount that student organizations meet. I'm the treasurer of Hispanic Law Students Association, and I agree with Nirav. And I'm not super active in Family Law Society, but that's something that I've done before. The reason I remember is because Nirav said to pick an organization that you would benefit from. So one of the things that is cool about Family Law Society is that they have like this connection with the Legal Aid Society here in Lubbock, and they do a lot of, the word escapes me.
Pro bono?
Yeah,
Volunteer?
pro bono work that they have set up with the Family Law Society. So you get a lot of practical experience through that avenue as well. And there's organizations that have like the things that they're known for that they do every year. Like the Aggie Bar Association has crawfish fricassee coming up next. Oh, is it tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow at lunch. So if any of you are Sunday and you're looking for a place to eat lunch for 16 or 20 bucks at the door, you can get all the crawfish you can eat.
And there's raffle prizes, I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's raffle prizes.
Pretty great prizes, actually.
And Benton Leachman and Justin Beiser are going to be playing. They're law students, and they're fantastic. There's my plug-in for some friends of mine. Like, they're really, really good.
Yeah, one of
You
them
should go see
won the singer-songwriter.
Yes, in Austin.
In Austin?
It was in Austin.
So that's legit, right?
Because it was in Austin.
It's not like,
Right.
oh, in Muleshoe, right? Like, that's, like, no, that's a city.
And
with
Benton
people.
just came out with his first album, so he's pretty damn good.
So you can tell, like, we're all pretty close. Like, you're going to become close to the law school family. Like, we're all support each other. Oh, for example, how he knows that that he came out with his CD. There's a CD release party at the Blue Light, and I'm not even kidding, like, the entire law school was there. It was awesome.
Hi. So I know, or I've heard, that one of the hardest parts about law school is just gauging how well you're doing throughout the semester when you only have one test or like 2 or maybe even a couple of quizzes. How do you kind of know if you're getting it? You know what I mean?
I think there's 2 aspects to that. There's the academic and the emotional. So emotionally, we're all type A people generally that make it into law school, right? Like very organized, and we're very ambitious, and we're on top of things, and we want to know what's going on. We like bullet pointed lists, right? And it's very difficult, like you said, when you're in a class when the only grade you get is the final. And it's very difficult for you to sit there for, 4 months or 5 months and have no idea if, you actually, I think I understand this topic. I'm answering all his questions. I've read all the cases. This is great. And then you do one practice problem and you missed it. And so then you're just completely debased. And you're like, oh, gosh, I don't know. I'm on rocky ground. What am I doing? But it's okay. And I think emotionally what you should do is go ask your professor. Just seriously, go sit in there. If you have a question, do not be afraid to go ask your professor. Just say, I'm not really sure that I understand this completely. Let me tell you what I know about it, and you can tell me where I'm falling short. And they, like it's been said, are completely open to you to do that. And I think that was the best thing I did, was I just went back and got some reassurance that, yes, okay, I do know what's going on. And then as far as taking the test at the end, academically, that's kind of a steep hill for people who are accustomed to doing several assignments and getting some progress along the way. But I would say the best thing that we did in my little study group is you make an outline kind of on your own. There are other ones out there, but generally making an outline is really good because it makes you reinforce what you know. And so, sit down once a week or every 2 weeks and just summarize your notes. So we would take our big long notes from class and we would just boil them down to the bare bones basics of what we should have learned. And that was fantastic. And that really helped me say, oh yeah, I remember all of this. Fantastic. So it's doable, but it's definitely a different kind of style.
And Nirav and Sarah, you guys were TAs.
Yeah,
right?
so...
And so do you have from that perspective of doing that? And maybe explain sort of how that works too, because I don't think that's come up before.
So I'm a tutor currently for Professor Shannon's property class, and then last semester I was a tutor for Professor Kramer's contracts class. And so every class that you have, you either have a tutor like for your contracts, civil procedure, torts types classes, and then for your legal practice class, you also have a teaching fellow. So the teaching fellows and the tutors are there for you to talk to them to make sure that you are understanding the material that you need to be understanding at that point in the semester. And we help you guys prepare for the final exams by giving you practice questions and reviewing the material, perhaps saying it in a different manner than how the professor is teaching it so that we can help you better understand it. Like the professor may only teach by lecturing while we try to do PowerPoint slides like it. So if you're a visual learner, that may help you. So we try to use different strategies to help you learn the material, perhaps if you're not getting it initially. And then we have weekly tutoring sessions where we do that. We also have office hours. So I think it's really beneficial. Do you want to talk about the legal practice program?
Yeah, I was a teaching fellow for Professor Gossett, she's a legal practice professor. I went to every class that she had each week, and I think they meet 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was in every class, so I knew what was going on. All of my students had my email, my phone number, and they were able to call me or text me or email me with any questions they had. I would set up meetings with them if they had questions about blue booking, questions about writing, which you will have questions about blue booking because it's a very foreign concept when you come to law school.
Blue book sucks, guys.
It's terrible.
It's
I love
miserable.
it.
I
Don't
agree with
listen to
Judge
them. It's
Posner.
wonderful.
Like
I
as
love
long
the
as the
blue book.
citation is unambiguous, I don't see the point in having a whole book on how to cite something. It's crazy.
So are we Allwood people then? Is like Allwood over Blue Book, or you just hate them all?
I pretty much hate the blue book and the green book. The mouse I can accept.
Okay.
Yeah, the mouse actually is pretty helpful. I read it's only like 20 pages. I read the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, I learned a ton just reading this little mouse book. But the blue book is terrible. I hate the blue book.
Mouse stands for
They're
Manual on
crazy. It's
Usage and
wonderful.
Style.
Yeah, and what we really say doesn't matter because you guys will need to use the blue book, the green book, and the mouse for basically everything. So
Yeah.
just get used to it.
Yeah, but it was great because I was able to help them. And with legal practice, that's one of the classes that you can actually see your progress. I remember when I came to Accepted Students Weekend, one of the girls on the panel said that she was amazed when she looked at her first memo that she wrote in legal practice, and then at the end of the year, she looked at her final assignment, which was her appellate brief, and it was like 2 different people wrote it. And that is true. You can actually see how much you're learning in legal practice. So that's one way you can, figure out that you are actually making progress in law school. Also, I had a moment, my 1L year, when I felt like I was completely lost. I felt like everybody else understood everything and I was stupid and I didn't know anything. But I was talking to my mom on the phone and she mistakenly asked me how school was and what I was learning. Then I went on a huge speech about torts and CivPro and all of these things that I knew. And I didn't realize I knew them. I just needed to talk about it and talk through it. And finally, 40 minutes later, she said, okay, Sarah, I got to go cook dinner. I'll talk to you later. So you will feel like you are not learning sometimes. You will feel like you are the dumbest person in the room. And that's normal because you're around a lot of really smart people. But you will, in talking through it with your fellow classmates or with your parents or whoever, you will realize that you are actually learning more than you think you are. So just hang tight and you'll be great.
I think it's really important too because there's a certain personality type in law school that when stressed or when under the gun retreats inside. You start to hyper focus and you're like, no, I don't have time for anything. I got to do this work. And you start to cut yourself off from people like I can't go out, I got to study. And that a lot of times just isn't healthy just from a sort of personal standpoint. And so you'll hear it a lot in orientation, hopefully wherever, you end up if you don't end up here, but it's true. You look out for each other and talk to each other so that hey, are you doing okay? I've noticed you kind of weren't there today or whatever. You seem a little sort of frazzled. But again, the only way that you check in to make sure you're okay is if you're actually talking to people, if you're talking to your professor, if you're talking to your, if you're in a study group or something, that's how you know. And if you just are always by yourself and you're only trying to measure yourself against your own sort of feelings, that sometimes can be not a great path to go down because it can sort of lead to, you sort of freaking out and kind of just being in your own sort of stress. And so, like I think they mentioned a couple times yesterday, right? Law is a social profession. Law school is a social endeavor. It doesn't mean you need to be, everywhere all the time and be like the queen bee or whatever, but you do need to have those relationships, even if it's just a couple of people and that's your crew. It's really important because you guys are still people, right? You're human beings, and we hope you're still human beings when you get out on the other side. But it's hard, and you have to like pay attention to it. It's not something you can just sort of like, oh, it'll be fine. Like you need health care and maintenance just like other people do, and so that's, I think, something to remember. Raj and Garrett, do you remember doing that? What is it? The grammar exam or something? Don't they do a diagnostic?
Oh, at the beginning of the year?
In LP?
Yeah. What is it called?
Oh yeah, at the very beginning.
I always hear horror stories about that. Like everybody thinks you know how to write, and then you do it, and you're like, I don't know what a participle is and why it's dangling.
What are the assignments you turn in to do your citations for Blue Book? What's it?
ICWs?
ICWs. Yeah, it's like a preliminary ICW exam. It's like grammar, spelling, and punctuation. The like master exam. Yeah, we did. It was
probably
awful.
was horrible because I don't even remember.
We blocked it out.
Miserable.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
all
you
the stuff
take
from
it.
like 7th grade English, like composition
Yes.
that you haven't seen since then.
Yes.
since
And I was a
then.
communications major in undergrad, so I was like, Psh,
Oh,
I
yeah.
got this.
I was
No
poli-sci.
problem.
Size, I
Sentences?
was
Have you
like-
diagrammed sentences?
No, hard
Do
lesson
that?
learned.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, block it out.
It's all fun though, right?
I just want to get in a study group and do a bunch of practice problems. I think that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Hi guys, you guys mentioned planning and everything. So I kind of want to know, what does a typical day of a 1L look like in terms of like, if you were to put it on your planner, how would it look like?
Oh God.
Ladies first.
Wow. Okay. Don't be scared. I'm probably just a crazy person. Don't be scared.
Get a bumper sticker that says
Yeah.
that. Put it on.
I usually wake up like 6:30. I don't have class till 10. But I get up, have my coffee, get dressed. I get to the library. Yeah, that's probably important. I get to the library and I study till my 10 o'clock, and then I have at 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. and then nobody usually has class at 12, so it's like our lunch break. So I'm literally like in the library eating and studying. Then I have a 1 o'clock, and then I'm free at 2, and from 2 to 4 I have a break, so I'm studying. And then I have a 4 o'clock, and I finish at 5, and I'm usually studying till 7. And then I go to the gym, get home, eat, go to sleep pretty early. I'm usually in bed by like 10, so you will get sleep. I promise you will sleep. And then that's my routine Monday through Friday. Saturday and Sunday varies, but I am studying Saturday and Sunday as well, so.
Yeah, no, mine's very similar. And like we said earlier, it's very subjective. So number one rule, if you are finished with your work, don't be freaked out that you're finished with your work. It's okay that you finished. It's fine. Don't be upset when you get on Facebook and you see that 13 of your classmates are still in the library at 1 a.m. And you're like, oh gosh, I should be there too. What are they doing that I'm not doing? And you really psych yourself out. But it's okay because it's very subjective. So if you got your stuff done, you got your stuff done. And don't compare yourself to somebody else. So my schedule, I like to get up really early and get things done early because then the rest of my day is a little stress relieved. So I usually try to get to the library by like 6:30 or 7 in the morning so I can like just knock out as much as I can before class starts at 8. And then I have class basically throughout the whole afternoon until about 2. I finish at 2. And then I'll finish till, I'll just read as much as I possibly can until 5. And then I also like to study not at the law school because I feel like there's actually life not in the building. So I'm like, oh, there's other people. Other people live and do things out in Lubbock. That's great.
False.
So there's false. So there's the local coffee shop here that I'm addicted to. You'll see me check in there every single day. I go there and I camp out for like 5 hours and just do all of my reading or whatever I have to do. But just like Raisha, I cut it off about 7-ish and go to the gym and go home and eat, and I get in bed about 10 o'clock. So you just kind of have to schedule it. But you will get sleep. You will get to do other things. So it's not as bad as the internet articles say.
Also, I don't know if they told you guys, but in most classes, like you try to read ahead. So you try to be like 30 or 40 pages ahead of your professor. And I'm like right now, as of now, I am done with my property reading for the entire semester. So I don't even have to really worry about reading for property. I'm just like studying and reading for crim law. And I'm like 2 chapters ahead in crim law. So that really helps you study. Be ahead of your classes, and then you can have time to study and do other fun things. And that's probably the biggest tip. Just be ahead. That way, if you have a day where you don't feel like studying, you're like, oh, I don't have to study because I'm already ahead. So that's something really important to kind of do because you never know. I mean, life does happen. So being ahead just means you can take a break when a break is needed.
I feel like later when I go back and edit this video, I'm going to have to put a giant asterisk above Rasha's head.
Don't do
Just
that.
says,
Don't
like,
tell any. I
these
did not tell
results-
you this. I
These
promise.
results not typical. You don't
I have
to
to
get here
say,
at 5 in the morning and work that
The
hard.
most I've ever been ahead was maybe 2, maybe 3 days. I can't
Yeah.
even imagine having read for the whole semester. That's insane. I wouldn't even remember
No,
it.
was
I'd be
spring
like,
break. It was spring break.
I'd
Give
be
me a
like,
break. It
I
was
would've
spring
been
break.
like, what did I read? I read this.
Okay, I had fun. I did go to South
I
by.
read this
I had
case.
fun. I had a life during spring break. I went to South by, you know. But in order to go to South by, I was like, read property, get property done. So I had fun. I'm a normal human, I promise.
I would just say, don't expect yourself to have read for the whole semester at this point. I would say just stay ahead, maybe a day ahead. And in the case you have something come up and you can't read that night, you knew you're fine because you were a day ahead. But I've never been more than 2 or 3 days ahead. I can't. Like, that's really hard. I'm impressed. Like, that's really hard to have.
Well, I mean,
read so
it's like
much.
Garrett said, right? I mean, you have to really, it's human nature to compare yourself to the person that's next to you and stuff. And in law school, you have to check that and kind of keep it because you've heard the saying, right? Work smart, not hard. In law school, you have to do both. It's going to be, you have to work hard, but you also have to work smart. And you don't know what that person that's in the library at 1 a.m. is doing. They could be doing like the totally wrong, stuff, what they're doing. They're banging their head against the wall because
There's a projector
figuratively,
in front
not
of your
literally,
So-
but because maybe they're just studying the wrong thing or in the wrong way, whereas your study method for you is much more efficient, so you're getting the same benefit, it just doesn't take as long. Like different people learn different. Some people, I mean, we were talking about it yesterday, do flashcards. Some people do like quizzing individuals back and forth. Some people can just get it by reading it themselves over and over, synthesizing notes. So there's no magic pill, there's no magic bullet that like it works for everybody. And that I think is kind of tough in that first like 2 months of law school when you're trying to figure out, well, what does work for me? I don't know. And you're like looking for ideas and you see all these people doing sort of stuff that they read from wherever, and you'll get through that, so don't panic. It just takes time to find your sort of like your lane, and then you can just sort of stick there and do that.
Well, and like the perfect example is LP, the writing course that they've been talking about so highly. It is fantastic. It is the devil of 1L year because it takes up so much time. But then once you get closer to the end, like when we ended our first semester, I was like, I love this class so much. I've learned so much in this class. And now I'm writing an appellate brief and I'm back to really hating it. But example of how different it is, one of my closest friends here in law school can write our briefs. He'll start 2 days before they're due. I started 3 weeks ago, and I'm finishing as of now. But he started yesterday, and it's due next week, and his will still beat me. He still gets a better score all the time, and so it's just different. I mean, he can operate on a 2-day time frame, and I cannot. So it's just very different for everybody.
We've got time for like a couple more questions, but one question I did want to ask is sort of like housing. And because I think sometimes when people come from like really big cities, they expect it to be like super complicated and like there's a bunch of different neighborhoods and where should I live, and like Lubbock's not that hard. Can you guys just talk about like how you found like where you were, how you found your place, or what part of town you live in, that kind of stuff? And we can start with 3-year residents and move that way.
I'm not very typical because I was living here in undergrad and my brother lives up here. We actually bought a house in 2010, and so we would rent out a room or two, and hardly have any mortgage due. So I wouldn't say
Which part of town?
It's pretty close to the mall, so it's about 50th and Slide, which is actually, there's quite a few law students that live over there. Probably 4 or 5 of us all in a 2-block radius. Pretty common. A lot of rent houses around there too, and it's a nice neighborhood. I've never had a single break-in or anything like that. Never even seen the cops in our neighborhood. It's pretty nice.
I live at Tuscany Place, which is, what did we determine last night? The north,
Southwest.
southwest, whatever.
Milwaukee and
Yeah,
66.
Milwaukee and 73rd.
Yeah.
That area. It's a really nice area of town. It's very safe. It's quiet. There's a lot of families because they've built tons of houses over there now. There's a middle school nearby, so that's kind of inconvenient at 8 o'clock in the morning. But other than that, it's very quiet. It's a great apartment. The managers, I think it's Case and Associates, and they're wonderful. I've lived there all 3 years and haven't wanted to move.
Has it been there that long?
I was the first person to move into that
Yeah, well,
complex.
no, that's why, because I live across the street, so I saw it built.
Yeah.
And so
It wasn't even built when I came
it's
and
really
looked at it.
new,
My
yeah.
mom and I came, accepted Students Weekend, and we drove around to several different places, different areas of town, and kind of figured out the area I wanted to be in. And it's about 15 to 20 minutes from school, depending
not
on
even.
traffic.
Not even.
Sometimes.
7, 8.
Well, you
I'm
go
going the wrong way.
You come at like
How
early
fast
morning.
do you drive, deep breath?
I'm like 10, 11, so people are going to lunch maybe, I don't know. But we just determined that safety was important to my parents. And I really didn't care about being close to the law school because I really didn't want to deal with any undergrad noise or parties. And we don't really have that. In the summer, sometimes there's some loud people, but my apartment's really great, and if I complain about them, they just take care of it. So
They disappear, those people?
They do.
They just disappear.
they do.
Bianca, where are you at?
I'm also in Southwest Lubbock. I live out on 82nd in Milwaukee in an apartment complex called Dakota Arms, and I really like it for a lot of the same reasons that Sarah mentioned. It's a lot of smaller families or young couples living there, so noise isn't an issue for me. I've never even had to complain once, and I just like that part of area in general. It's a lot more commercial on that side. It's a lot newer. For example, if you go down Milwaukee, a lot of new restaurants and like service industry areas are out there. There's Freddy's just opened out there. A Dunkin' Donuts is going to open there. A Baskin Robbins. I just drive by and I'm really excited because it's just a growing part of the city. That's where the city is growing, and so that's why I like it, because it's new and it
And on
looks
a map,
pretty.
because I mean, again, I live out there. On a map, it's going to look far. Like from here, it's not. I mean,
It's
like
not.
I said, it takes me, in the mornings, about 10 minutes, and 5 of those minutes are going the mile from my house to the highway because there's 2 lights and a bunch of people like turning right and all that kind of stuff. And then the next 5 minutes is the 7 miles all the way in on the highway, and it's really easy. So I know sort of big city brain, you're thinking, oh, that's too far away. It looks really far on the map. There's no traffic in town, so like it's okay to do that. Nirav, where are you at?
Yeah, I live like 2 minutes from the law school. Actually, I live on 19th and Quaker by the Market Street at a place called St. Abby's. It's almost exclusively like an apartment complex for graduate students. So like my neighbors are all grad students, medical students, or law students. So I don't have any noise problems whatsoever. I moved there my last year of undergrad because I knew I was coming to law school here. So I've lived there 3 years now. I would highly recommend it. Like I said, it's like 2 minutes from the law school. It's right next to the Market Street.
Yeah. It's literally down the street.
Yeah, I mean, like down the street. And I can get from my apartment to the law school, like I said, 2-minute drive. So it's amazing.
Rasha?
I live at Raiders Walk on 4th and University, probably the closest to the undergrad area you can get. But my apartment is solely 1 and 2 bedrooms, so the majority of people that live there are graduate students or they're in medical school, and there's quite a bit of law students that live there too, so it's fairly quiet. During football season, I can literally walk to the stadium across the street, which is very convenient for me. But yeah, it's a great neighborhood. We have like a gym, 2-story gym, 2 pools. There's like a study room. It's gated, so it's fairly safe. I've never had any problems. I love it. I can't say anything bad about it.
Garrett?
I live in Northeast Lubbock, so on University and 30th. So I live in literally the oldest part of town, and I rent a house there. And I stayed there the entire time I was at Texas Tech. Both of my sisters before me, when they were at Texas Tech, rented that house. We've been there for like 15 years. So
I guess it's probably most helpful. Like, can you give me just ballpark prices, like what, just to get a sense of what it is, like.
Renting in Lubbock is extremely cheap. So apartments, I feel like, I've been here a long time, I feel like apartments are a little more expensive, but tend to be nicer sometimes than renting a whole house. Plus, if you rent a house, you usually have to take all the responsibilities that go with that, like mowing the lawn and all those kinds of things, whereas an apartment, you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. So paying a little bit more might be worth it for a lot of people. I just took the house because my sisters already had it and they were moving out, so it's convenient. But we pay $700 for our entire house and then split it in half because I have a roommate, so I pay $350 and then bills on top of that. So I usually pay roughly $450 a month.
Rasha?
Well, he's obviously smarter than me. I pay like $830 probably, but
It doesn't
all
have a
my
2-story workout room though.
yeah, that's definitely why I chose it. No, it has washer and dryer, all bills paid, electricity, internet, everything I can ever have to pay for. I didn't want to worry about setting things up when I got here. I didn't want to go to a laundromat, so it was really convenient. It is a little pricey, but I guess it's kind of worth it for the
Rob?
convenience.
Yeah, I pay about $700, including utilities and everything, and I live by myself.
Bianca?
I pay $727. That's just rent, but if I were to include all my bills, it probably comes out to like $840.
There, about the same, right? No? Yeah.
Mine, I
It's a
have.
nice complex, though. That's a
It
nice
is.
complex.
It's a very nice complex. I pay $960 just for the apartment and water, but I also have a garage, which is $85, and I have a cat, which costs me $10 a month, even though it's not worth it. So I think base rent is like $820 at Tuscany for the large one bedroom, and my apartment is pretty big. It's not necessary to have that big of an apartment. Trust me, I just have a lot of things.
And then Cam, just real quick, because we're almost.
I mean, between our mortgage, insurance, and taxes, it's $800 a month, and divided by 4 people. Well, actually, we charge our roommates more than we pay. So
Here you go.
As is your right, as
it probably
homeowners.
only costs me $200 a month. I mean,
True
it's
car salesman right there.
But the house itself, like if you were gonna rent it, it would be like $800.
yeah. If we were to rent it, it would probably be $900.
And then you would split it 4 ways.
Yeah, it's because it's 4 bedrooms.
And I just
so.
do that as an exercise, like your mileage may vary, right? But that just to give you a sense. So we got time for like one more question, and I saw hands. Oh,
I was just going to ask, because I asked it yesterday, and you said it would be a
Okay.
good question to ask y'all. Obviously, camaraderie here is really strong, I can tell, just by talking to people, so I'll skip that part of it. But when you guys were forming your study groups and stuff, what kinds of things did you look for, tips, and how you liked to do your study group organization and things like that?
personal hygiene would probably be one, I would think, right? No, I'm just kidding.
You probably want to limit to your study group to like 4 or 5 people maximum, because it'll get really chaotic if you do anything past that. And usually you meet like, depending on each class, your study group can vary for each class. You don't have to be with the same people. You can even go into other sections. I don't know if I would advise that because you don't have the same professors. But 4 or 5 people once a week, you go over everything you went over that week, combine notes. It's very helpful. I would recommend it.
We even do, because we do different things in my study group sometimes. So we have like a shared cloud, and we like share all of our stuff. And then if somebody's lost, then we get together and we talk about it in person. But most of the time, we don't even meet up. We just upload our stuff and we say, here's my notes from this week, and everybody puts them on there, and then we can compare. And I can say, oh, I really spaced out when he was talking about this topic. Oh, but Aaron didn't, so I can use hers. Great. And so we just kind of share information as much as we can, and that's kind of how we do it until finals rolls around, and then it's boot camp.
I'll talk about my study group. I had there's 4 people in mind, including myself, and we met on Sunday afternoons, so once a week for about 4 hours, and we took about an hour for every class, maybe a little bit more, just to cover the topics. And then once finals came around, we did practice questions together. We did basically everything together, like have lunch and dinner and breakfast together too. So it's really nice. Though. I really do recommend forming a study group.
I actually didn't, get into a study group my first semester. I kind of just kept up with the reading and did my own thing on my own. And that was fine, because I honestly don't know how, if you're not in a study group, I honestly don't know how helpful it would be to be in a study group your first semester, because you're all so lost. It's just kind of like the blind leading the blind. And so, but definitely be in a study group for finals, because that's when you really get to talk it out with other people, flesh it out, and find where you're struggling, because you might not know it until you're talking to somebody else and you're saying something as if you think you know what you're talking about, and then somebody in your group's like, actually, I don't think you're right about that, blah, 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 blah. That's very helpful. So don't feel like you have to be in a study group right away, like that's what you need to do coming to law school, because I wasn't in a study group my first semester, and I did okay. But you do want to be in a study group for finals. I would say I started studying with people before finals like 3 weeks out, and then, of course, during the finals period, and we would meet maybe 3 times a week going over a different subject. I had just one study group for all 3 subjects.
I didn't do study groups. I didn't really study at the law school either, because if I'm at the law school, I'm going to be socializing with everybody around me instead of studying. No, never.
that
I don't
sounds
walk around and talk to people.
atypical for you.
Yeah, so it's a problem. I'm a very talkative person. But I had two friends that we were all pretty close. So around finals, sometimes we would meet up and kind of talk through things if we were confused. But mainly I studied on my own just because that's how it works for me.
So it was just me and two friends for us, and we were pretty bad about getting off topic. So we'd actually have to make a list of what we needed to go over, and we would meet every Saturday and spend about 4 to 6 hours going over everything. But once we got that list, we were good, and we're still a tight group. I live with one of those guys now, and the other one, he still studies with us. So pretty close.
Again, no magic rule, right? I mean,
Right.
with different strokes for different folks. So, well, join me in helping thank them.